to my channel. My name is Slit. On this channel I make sewing tutorials. I post new videos on Wednesdays and on Saturdays. So if you're into stuff like this, make sure to check back on those days in order to watch new content. Alright, if you are a beginner or if you're a person that's trying to brush up on your skills, I offer online courses. I'll be showing a demo on how to make a jumpsuit so you can watch on the side if it would be convenient for you to learn online. If you're interested, send me a message on Telegram. Alright, number is on the screen right now. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like the video, please give it a like. Do not forget to subscribe. I will see you in the next video. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye. Alright, you're welcome to today's video. In this video, I'm going to show you how to cut and sew the skirts that you've seen on the thumbnail. Now, I have made a video in the past on how to draft different types of pencil skirt lengths. A link to that video will be in the description below. Because I made that video, I'm not going to bother to explain in detail how to draft a skirt, but I would show you here how I draft this here, but I'm going to speed it up. So make sure to see that video in order to understand what to do. So you can see me drafting out my skirts now. Alright, I'm going to join it together and I'm going to add my allowance on the side. Alright, so now this is the pattern that I have here. For my allowance, what I did was I kept 2.5 up here because of the dots. Everywhere else I kept 1.5 for my allowance. Also, my paper is not long enough, so at the bottom I'm going to add 3 inches when I'm transferring my pattern to my fabric. Okay, this pattern here will be used to cut the front and the back. Alright, so I'm going to use this pattern, like I said, to cut the front and the back. But for the back, I'm going to keep my allowance of 1.5 inches in front. Alright, so that's the only difference between the front and the back, is that on the back we're going to have 1.5 inches in front of it. That's going to serve as our zipper allowance. So I'm cutting this out. I'm adding my excess at the bottom, like I said I would. Alright, then I'm going to fold my fabric, use the same pattern to cut the back, but this time I'm going to keep my allowance in front of it, like so. Alright, and then I'm going to go ahead. Now I'm going to pin down my zipper allowance. So the 1.5 that I told you to keep in front, I'm going to pin it down so that it doesn't move anywhere. Okay, I'm going to secure it in one place. Alright, now we have this pattern. We have to modify it so that we can use it to create that open effect at the bottom. So in order to get that, now on the picture that you saw there, if you want to achieve that exactly, if you are as daring as the person is, you're going to come just simply 1 inch after there. You're going to open it up towards the center. We're not going to do that because that's going to be a bit too high for my client. So I'm going to come in between the waist and the hip and the knee, sorry. So come to the middle and make a mark. That's where I'm doing mine. Alright. If you want, you can bring it down, you can take it up, but if you bring it down too much, it's going to spoil the effect. So I'm going to open up my paper like you can see me doing, and then I'm going to suddenly draw a curve from up there to 4 inches after the edge. Now mind you, my paper doesn't go all the way down, so I'm going to draw a line from there to here, 4 inches here. Alright, 4 inches before the edge. Alright, we're going to draw a line from the waist all the way down now, from the that place in between the hip and the knee all the way down to here. Alright, and then we're going to cut it out. Okay, you can see that when I was cutting out over here, I added ½ inch so that by the time I stitch that part in to stop at the green line exactly. If you want, you can add ½ inch all the way in front, but yeah, at that point there, I don't want that part to go deeper than ½ inch. I'll go ahead to use this pattern to cut the front and the back of my fabric. Alright, so let's start with the front first. Is to simply open up, lay the front flat, place the pattern on top of it, and then I'm going to simply trace out that side like so. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the other parts. When it's time for me to cut the back, this is why I pinned it. I pinned it so that by the time I lay everything flat, our zipper allowance will be in one place. You see that our zipper allowance will not give us any issues. So because we pinned it down, that is why we pinned it down, so that by the time we are making this cut, we are not worried about what our zipper allowance is doing. So now we're going to place the front on the back, front side facing front side, because remember we cut the front with the front side facing up, but now that we're cutting the back, you want the front here, you see here, facing here. All right, so front facing front, and then we're going to basically trim the bottom together, so you can see that. All right, I'm going to do the same thing to my lining. I'm going to simply place these patterns on my lining, and I'm going to cut. All right, I'm going to separate the back, that's the needles we have at the back. I'm going to take it off, and I'm going to place my lining on the table, place my pattern on top, and I'm going to cut. I'm not going to take away any measurements from the lining in order to reduce it in length or in width. I'm not doing any of that. They are going to be, the lining and the fabric have the exact dimensions. So that's what I'm doing here for the front. You can see the shiny side is facing up. All right, so make sure that that's the same thing you have going on yours as well. You want to have the clean side of the fabric facing up for all the parts. You can see even on this side of the back, I'm doing the same thing. I would also do the same thing on the last part of the back as well. All right, now that that has been done, I'm going to go ahead to iron stay onto the wrong side of my fabric. So woven fusible interfacing, lightweight woven fusible interfacing, I'm going to iron that to the wrong side of my fabric, not my lining. I'm going to iron it on all sides of my fabric. So when I'm done ironing stay, I will meet you on the sewing machine where we start to piece all these pieces together. After you've done that, we're going to come over to the sewing machine. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to come to our zipper allowance. You can see the way I placed it. I placed it front facing front. You see this is the back that we are stitching first, by the way. Make sure that your lining is facing the same way. So you see this, if you see my lining, you see that curve I have there, you can see when I move this, you can see the curve is also facing up. Make sure you place it like this, pin it down, so that you don't make a mistake with your zipper allowance facing the wrong side. If not, you have to do this again. I hope that is clear. So we're going to keep a space of 1.5 when we're stitching, and then we're going to come down by 8 inches. So from here to here 8, here to here 1.5. I'm going to stitch straight down from there. I'll do the same thing on my lining as well. All right. You can see this, I'm doing it on my lining as well. 8 inches, 1.5 inches in. I'm going to stitch from the top all the way down. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to iron my zipper allowance flat. So you see that part I just stitched, I'm going to iron it flat. So now when you're done with that, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to hold our darts on all the dart parts of the fabric and lining. That's at the back now. So just simply hold your dart on the fabric and lining on the back first. All right, so you can see that. Doing the lining now, stitching both sides of the lining. That's in both sides of the lining, sorry. All right, when you've held your darts, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to simply install our zipper on the space that we have kept previously. That's the 8 inches that we kept. We're going to simply install our zipper there, which is what you can see me doing now. Yeah, so go ahead, stitch your zipper down so we can move on to the next step. All right, so you can see what we have here. After we have installed our zipper, next thing we're going to do is we're going to place the back on the front, but the clean side facing the clean side, like you can see me doing. You're going to open up zipper allowance or stitch from zipper allowance till 1 inch after where you have your darts. All right, ½ inch is what you are consuming. So you can see me doing that here. I'm stitching from the edge of the zipper allowance all the way to 1 inch just after my darts, and coming from that side all the way to the front. Now when you're done with that, you make sure you zip down completely, and then you are going to align the fabric and the lining for together. So you can see the fabric and the lining that are joined together at the waist. You are going to bring them together, and you are going to stitch on the thread that you just used to on the seam that you can see there that I just used to stitch my to attach my zipper. You stitch as close to it as possible. Doing the same thing on the other side. I'm joining the fabric and the lining together. What this will do is that this is going to make sure that your zipper allowance is very, very clean. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to dart both sides of my front as well, on the fabric and the lining. Now all the length of the dart is 4 inches. The width of the dart is just ½ inch, half, which is 1. I'm doing the same thing to my lining. I'm going to hold my darts there as well. All right, so when you are done with that, we are going to join the waist together. You are going to come 1 inch before your dart. You see this? I'm going to stitch half an inch across, and I'll stop 1 inch after the second dart. We're just basically doing what we did at the back to the front. All right, so you see this? I'm going to stop shortly after my dart, and then you can see the way I've placed my front flat. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to join the front and the back together. All right, you can see this is what we're doing now. I'm going to bring the sides together. So you see the short side there where we have the slits, the nice cutout from the hip all the way down. We're going to join 1.5 on the short side first. Okay, I'm going to do that on my fabric. I'm going to do that on the lining on this part. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. You can see now this is the lining I'm joining. All right, I'm going to come over to the other side. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing on the fabric and the lining. This is why we didn't stitch from the edge. This is why we stopped at only 1 inch after the darts, so that to allow us to do this. All right, when you're done with joining all sides of the hips of the waist together, you see now we have we're going to join here together. You're going to need to spread and iron those seams flat. You see this? We're simply connecting where we stopped all the way across. All right, so I'm going to do this on the left and on the right, because we had left and right. Make sure to lay your seams flat, because we're going to iron this thoroughly when we are done. Iron the seams flat before we move on to the next step. But first of all, let me stitch across. You can see the way I'm making sure that I place those seams. That's the two side, the joining I have on the side flat. All right, when you've joined the waist together, you can see I have ironed the sides here flat on the left. Then make sure to turn everything to the front so that you can see what you have done. With that, you can see that we have neatly finished the waistline. You can see the waist. Look at the zipper here. Everything is clean. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to join them together. So yeah, you see what we have here. We're going to lay it flat. Make sure you've ironed it before this step. Ooh, this is not on camera. But yeah, do not fret. I'm going to do that again. I didn't notice that was off camera. What we're trying to do is we're trying to stitch the bottom very, very neat. We want to make sure that everything is facing the inside, because the whole thing is supposed to look clean. All right, so I'll do it again. You see the way here is. Make sure everything is flat and clean. You see this? You're going to keep like this. You're going to twist it to the wrong side, like you see me doing, like so. You see that, so that you don't get it mixed up. From here, I'm going to go around, and I'm going to and since I started from here, the loop is going to lead me right back to here. But I'm going to stop after I pass the side joining. So you see that side joining. Shortly after that, I'm going to stop and I'm going to lock. The reason why I stopped, that's because I stopped because I want to go back to where I started from, and I'm going to stitch. So I'm going to come back to where it all began, that here. I'm going to stitch all the way, but I'm not going to connect it to where we stopped. I will stop like 6 inches before I'll lock it there, and I'm going to use that as a hole to turn everything inside out. The hole that will be left, I'm going to use hemming tape. That's that iron-on, that's that heat activated adhesive that comes as a roll. Just Google it, you would understand know what I'm talking about if you don't know it. So you see the hole that I left is what's allowing me to turn everything inside out. All right, so you can see this is the final result. This is what you are going to have. Everything nice and clean. Here I have slightly ironed this, but not so much. Yeah, you can see all of that. Yeah, you can see the hole there where I've not sealed. That's the hole I turn out of. You are going to use your hemming gum inside there and just seal it shut, and everything is going to be nice and clean. Nice, easy, simple tutorial. Yeah, so if you've watched this far, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to see you in the next video. Do have a lovely day. Bye bye.